Good morning. It is Sunday. I'm going down to the sunny southeast Wexford for a IRGV Owners Committee meeting. Now the plan is to do a one-stop thing. The distance is about 180 kilometers, not that far. So about 180 kilometers. I plan on doing one stop in Waterford and then drive on to Wexford. Now that poses a bit of a challenge, just a little. The distance to the charge point is 117 kilometers, and I have an alleged 122 available to me, but we're just going to take it easy. It's all non-motorway. It's all non-motorway driving, so yeah, it should be fine. But we'll keep you informed. There is a few charge boards beforehand should I run out or something, or run low, but the 117 should be completely doable. The car is nice and warm. I did a preheat. It's about 11 degrees, and so 117 or 70 miles should be perfectly doable. Right, let's get going. Now we are charging 22%. That's our total distance driven. Now I have done, as you can see, 118.4 kilometers. I've only used 17 kilowatt hour. There's a good bit of regeneration just because of the route. Now my average speed, as you saw, is 73.7 kilometers an hour. Most of the road was just 100 kilometer hour roads. Where you generally in reality end up doing sort of between around 90 with pieces of slower things, so it was actually quite easy. But what I find interesting is that I allegedly, according to this, have only used 17 kilowatt hour, given I have a 22 kilowatt battery, I'm looking at an actual range that I could have done of about 150, which is quite high if you ask me. It just goes to show that slowing down a little has a huge impact on the range. Now, the other thing that I have to be honest with, I actually didn't use any heater for most of the journey because it's you know, I was dressed a bit warm. It's 11-12 degrees at the moment. The sun came out every once in a while. I wasn't cold, so yeah. But all in all, very happy. So I'm gonna charge up here for a while. I think I'll be joined by a Leaf in a while because one of my other committee members is also on the way from the Cork area, and he's scheduled to make a stop here in the next 10 minutes or so. So I'll probably end up meeting him. I'll show you another funny thing. Keep in mind this is a charge point, right? That. Now, there's allegedly 2 spots, but I've moved a bit further to the right because that's just wrong. And it's bolted to the actual floor as well. So, anyhow, we'll charge up here and move on to Wexford. Now, one of the other things worth noting, I'm still in Waterford, by the way. I couldn't actually find the charge point on the map. As in, if I went to a navigation drive to charging station, I'll just use near my location here now. So I'm at a charge point, right? And it's saying the nearest one is 4.9 kilometers away, which is a bit strange because I'm at one. So if I go to the actual map, I'm not sure if you can actually see it. I can't really see it, but there is actually a charge point there, okay? So it knows there's a charge point here. There you go. So it knows there's a charge point here, but for some strange reason I actually cannot use it. Or actually say that I want to go there, I should say. So it's a bit strange. Anyway, we are at 77%. I'll probably give it another 10 minutes or so. I don't need that much. The next leg is only about 60 kilometers, so 70% should be more than sufficient already. And I will be parking at a charge point, so that's all good. So we'll see you guys back on the road to Wexford. Now we are on the way to Wexford. Spent about, I think it was probably about half an hour, 33 minutes charging. I was at at 100% on my readout, but I think it was more like, well, 98, 99. I don't have CanZD to actually check properly. Anyway, what was interesting is that even though it's February, I had an estimate range of 142 kilometers, which is quite good. But that's probably due to the conservative driving that I have been doing. Like I said, I haven't used any heat because it's just too warm. It's 12 degrees at the moment, so there was no need. Anyway, I'm being a cheapskate Dutch guy. I'm bypassing the toll road, which I'll probably end up regretting because I'm going straight through the city centre. Considering it's a Sunday, don't really mind. As expected, my fellow committee member arrived with his Nissan Leaf. Now, what was interesting to note is that he charged about 60 kilometers back. I'm not sure what percentage he had, but when he plugged in, the car started charging at 42 kilowatts. Now, keep in mind that particular charge point is rated at 50, I think, 45, 50. So he started at 42, which was quite good, and then in about the space of a minute, he was down to 38, and approximately 5-10 minutes later, he was down to about 22 kilowatt. I don't know what it is, but Nissan Leafs over here, and I'm not sure if it's elsewhere, on the fast chargers, they seem to drop like stones when they start charging. Now, his was a 2013 first generation Nissan Leaf, so that might have something to do with it. The updated version with the 30 kilowatt hour, which he is actually waiting for, he should have it next week, he said, that allegedly charges faster, so it'll be interesting to see how much faster. He's keeping statistics, so it'll be interesting to see. What he also said is that we should actually redo our Missing Head to Malin race in the summer, but with 2 cars this time, his 30 kilowatt Leaf and my little 22 kilowatt Zoe. That should be interesting because allegedly they both have roughly the same range and they both have roughly the same charge time, so it's going to be interesting. Anyways, on to Wexford. Now we made it. We're in Wexford in the High Street thing. This is an interesting model. I haven't actually used it before. It's an electro bay. I think the ones in West Cork are gonna actually be using these. I actually like that. You can see the amperage. It's a full 3 kilowatt or 22 kilowatt charger, which is actually great. Even though it looks puny, it isn't. Right, time to go for my meeting. Right, we are finished with our meeting. I'm at 100%. And yeah, it's 4 o'clock. Meeting went well. Charger was good here actually. It was a 22 kilowatt charger, which is actually amazing. Like I said, it's the model is kind of small. So Wexford, yeah, it was good. These spots are marked, so it was actually no problem. The other chargers in this town are probably a little bit harder to get there. Anyway, on my way home now, I think what I might do is reset my trip meter, although I'm kind of tempted to leave it. No, I'll leave it. I was going to say I'll do a comparison between the way in and the way out. On to Waterford. Oh yeah, you guys might be wondering why there's no actual more footage of the actual road. It's because my actual mount actually came off my GoPro. I can't actually hang it where it normally hangs to measure or to actually measure, to actually film the road. So I'm sorry, there won't be any more on the road footage in this particular episode. Anyway, on my way to Waterford. Now we are in Waterford. 47% left. It's going to stop now charging in a minute because it's going to spin up the fans because the battery is quite warm. Anyway, no troubles. I'd say another 10-15 minutes here should see me to Fermoy if I wanted to. But I think I'll just charge for half an hour or so and see if I can go home just like I did this morning. Although the wind has picked up, so it's gotten a bit windier, and I also think that the actual way back is actually going uphill, so I probably won't. Well, I might make it because I have 20% to spare, but it won't be as comfortable as it was this morning. But right now we are charging, and I need some sweets probably. It's a shame actually that this particular charge point isn't near a fast food restaurant because I could have dinner whilst I was at it. This is where you miss the Ecotricity service stations you guys have in the UK. Right, talk to you guys later. Now we are back home. I've been back for a little while. I had to take a dog out for a walk. You won't see my eco score, but these are the distances. Did 365 kilometers. Total average consumption was very low. Now, like I said, I used very little heater, so that probably has something to do with it. But look at the amount of regeneration. That's pretty good. The area I was traveling to was low speeds and sort of, rolling hills. Total consumption was quite good as well. Basically, the charges were, as you saw, Waterford on the way in, then a local charger near my destination in Wexford, where I was there for about 1 o'clock, and I didn't leave until well after 4, I think, so 3 to 4 hours. So I had a full charge. Then back to Waterford, where I charged up again, and then I would have made it home in one go, but I topped up for about 7 minutes in Fermoy whilst I was doing some shopping there at the supermarket just to pick up a few essentials. So basically, all in all, I would have been able to do 365 kilometers with just 2 stops. Now, the only reason for that is because one of my stops was a destination charge. But say if I had another fast charger and I would have just continued on, it would have been 3 stops. It would have been absolutely perfectly fine. So that's good. All in all, very happy. Very nothing really unusual to report. So all in all, it was a very good trip. Um, I'm thinking of taking the car back over to Holland in September. And what I'm toying with is going from Rosslare, which is just about 10 kilometres south of Wexford. As you may remember, taking the ferry from Rosslare to Sherbrooke and actually driving up to Holland through France this time. France, Belgium, then on to Holland, bypassing the UK completely. That's going to be a bit of a challenge. I'm still working out the details, so that might change. But that's my initial, my current sort of preference. I think it was about 3 years ago. I think myself, my wife and myself were going to plan a week in France. We took our Toyota Prius over at that stage, and we were going to stay for a few days in the Centre Parks in France. But sadly, my father-in-law got ill, and I had to drop my wife off at the airport and drive on by myself. So that never happened, and we're thinking of sort of actually trying to see if we can actually stay in Centre Parks this time. But like I said, early days yet, still planning. At the moment, it is about 8 o'clock. I am hungry. I think it's time to order in. Bye now. Good evening. Um, it's 4 degrees at the moment. It's 6:10. It's going to be it's apparently going to be a bit cold today, or tomorrow. Um, After experimenting with the timer, I know I can have it come on without actually charging the battery. One thing that actually I was wondering is that how much energy does the car actually use to defrost the car? So how much does the preheat actually cost me? It's one thing to draw it from the battery, which is basically energy I've already paid for. It's another thing to actually draw it from the mains, which is energy that I have to pay. I still have to pay for. So what I have done is that I'm on call tomorrow evening, and I'm starting work at 10 o'clock. So I probably won't be out of bed before about 10 past, quarter past 9. So what I have done is I have set my comfort timer to 9 o'clock in the morning, which means it should be finished by the time I'm up and actually using additional energy. So I know from my energy monitor sort of what my baseline is at night when I'm not doing anything, when there's nobody around, no lights on, no nothing. So I'll be able to ascertain how much power it actually draws from the mains whilst doing a preheat. Now that'll include the pre-soak when the actual when you can't actually hear the car, the air conditioning going, but you actually can you can see the light, the ZE light in the front is on, so it's doing something. So yeah, it should be interesting. I'll report back tomorrow once everything is finished. Good morning, 9:31. Now sun in my back. The preheat ran. I manually disconnected it at around 10 past. Around 10 past 9. Now I brought my laptop in just to actually show you guys what the power curve looks like. Okay, so here is the power usage of my house on the 23rd of February. Okay, so during the night it was stable at around 0.11 kilowatt hour. So 0.11, and then here around 7:45, thereabouts, 7:40, 7:45, it goes up, and it goes up to about 0.54 of a kilowatt hour. So if I take the 0.11 off that as my baseline, that means that my car here was taking roughly 0.4, was it 43 of a kilowatt hour to do something. And this is the bit where it's actually warming, but it's silent. Now then over here you see a big spike all the way up to 3.3 kilowatts. So 2 kilowatt of that, actually sorry, 3 kilowatt of that is the car. So this is where it ramps up the actual energy usage. So it's 0.3, and that was at 8:36, 8:37 thereabouts. So that is still, what would that make it? 24 minutes before the actual timer had been set. It sort of spikes probably when it ramps up, slowly builds down, and then this is after 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock it sort of drops down to about 0.3, and it goes back to about 1 kilowatt hour, and then I disconnected it at 9:10. Now, from a cost perspective, this is the cost graph. Between 6 and 7, it cost me 2 cents to run the house on idle. The hour on beyond that is 3 cents, so between 7 and 8, not a hell of a lot happened. Then between 8 and 9, the house cost me 18 cents. So that would make it 16 cent-ish to do my preheat between 8 and 9. And then so far it's used 4 cents afterwards, so I would say that that's probably, yeah. So I would say my preheat, when I disconnected it after 10 minutes, cost me roughly 20 cents. Or a little over 1 unit of electricity. So there you have it. I can actually switch it to kilowatt hour. It might be worthwhile noting. So kilowatt hours. So this is 0.21 of a kilowatt hour. Then we used 1.13 of a kilowatt hour. So that's nearly a kilowatt hour to use the preheat, followed by 0.26 at the moment. So basically it uses nearly an entire kilowatt hour to actually preheat. That's quite a lot if you ask me. Mind you get a lovely warm car and it's fully defrosted. But it's worth keeping in mind that if you're, frugal, to maybe not have the preheat on every single morning. Good morning, everyone. It is a little past 8 o'clock. I'm at work, late as usual. I had my comfort timer and my charge timer set this morning to warm up the car without actually doing a charge. Now I had the comfort timer set at 7:45 and my charge timer at about 9:30 or something like that. Now, when I got up this morning just before 7 o'clock, it wasn't as cold as I was expecting, so I didn't really see the need to actually warm up my car, so I unplugged the car. At that stage, the car was doing its priming thing, so it had kicked in, as in the ZE logo was lit, so it was doing something, but it actually wasn't, it didn't actually run. But when I got in the car shortly before 8 to drive to work, both of the timers are still up on the dash. If you look at the logos there. So that's a bit interesting, because one of my viewers has been on to me nearly the last few episodes going, "My timers don't clear. The timers don't just clear." And I've been saying, "Oh, they do, because they always have." This is the first time for me that the timer actually didn't clear, but that's because technically they didn't run. So yeah, I'll be interested to see now at lunch break when it's about 12:30, 1 o'clock, to see if the timers are actually gone. Now and then lunch never happens, and before you know it, it's 6:30 in the evening. Anyway, the charge timer stopped. The comfort timer hasn't. So this is the exact scenario that I think his name was Bruce mentioned to me, is that the charge timer thing doesn't clear, and I think that is due to the fact that it actually never really ran. So I'm going to turn it off. There you go. Turned it off. Okay. That's an interesting one. So it looks like there's a particular scenario when you plug it in and you have the charge timer set that the actual comfort timer doesn't change. The charge timer did clear. The comfort timer doesn't. That's an interesting one. Anyway, it's home time. It's been way too late. I hate these sort of days where things are meant to happen a certain way and then never do. So that was a 10-hour shift when only 8 were expected. So home time, sit down, relax, put the feet up before I'm back at work on Sunday.